Hey guys, so are we ready to talk about the whole Throne of Glass series? I didn't film last month because I got a sinus infection and I completely lost my voice, and by the time I was okay, it was like midway through September, so I just decided to merge August and September books. Plus, I only read 4 books this month compared to last month where I read 11. I could have done one of those silent reviews. It would probably have gone like this. So yeah, that would have been a very quick video if I filmed last month a silent review. So I'm only going to talk about the first 4 right now and then the next 4 later throughout the video because I want to do this in order of how I read these books. And for these first 4, I will not give any spoilers, but the last 4 there will be spoilers because if you start reading these books, are you really going to want to know what happens in every single book? You kind of want to know the gist of the first book to get into a series. I don't think you would want to know each plot with all the other books afterwards. So yeah, spoilers for the last 4, but not these first 4. So let's talk about these first 4. Okay, so Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight, these 2 I loved. So the FMC, I'm just gonna call her Selena because I've seen it pronounced Selena, so I feel like Selena's just the easiest, so I'm gonna call her Selena. She's a young assassin in a prison camp, left to rot there and die. The story begins with Captain of the Guard, Kale. Apparently it's pronounced Kale, not Kale, and my husband still calls him Chow, but I'm just gonna say Kale. So again, the Captain of the Guard, Kale, brings Selena over to meet with Prince Dorian. Prince Dorian is there to ask her to compete in a deadly tournament with other hardcore criminals for the chance to be the king's assassin. This book basically contains everything that she has to go through for the competition. So the gist of this book, she's mostly training, she's trying to lay low because she's the only girl amongst them. Kale is basically there to train her and keep her in check. When I was reading this with my husband, I was like, how much you want to bet that she gets with this guy, Kale? He shows no emotion to her and he's like a mini bully. And my husband was like, no, she's probably gonna get with the prince. And that's all I'm gonna say about the first book. Just letting you know, the focal point of this series is not romance. There is romance sprinkled throughout these books, but that is not the focal point. That's what ACOTAR is for. Next, I read Crown of Midnight. I don't think this is a spoiler because it is brought up just for a split second in Throne of Glass. But I mean, she obviously won the competition. There would be no 8 books if she didn't win the competition because they would have sent her back to that prison camp. So she obviously won, okay? So now she's the king's assassin. The boys, Kale and Dorian, are actually shocked at how hardcore of a killer she is. I'm like, guys, that's why you hired her. You literally picked her up as a prison labor camp and you're shocked that she's out murdering people. Why is it shocking you guys that she's good at it? I'm also enjoying the romance aspect in this book. And because of that, I'm like, I can't get attached. I was like, this is gonna be like ACOTAR where Sarah makes you fall in love. Then she pulls the rug out from under you and is like, So yeah, I was angry at the whole miscommunication trope again. Things would be solved if you just learn to calm down and sit down and communicate with each other. But no, there would be no other books if we didn't have that happening. So yeah, I love the romance aspect, but then stupid miscommunication trope all over again. So next I go into The Assassin's Blade. This is the prequel. It's set out to read this first, then Throne of Glass, but I looked it up because I was so confused. A lot of people said it should be Throne of Glass and The Assassin's Blade. I looked at so many forums, but the one I noticed was the most popular was Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, and then The Assassin's Blade. And I do think that is the best option because if I read this first, I was so bored with this book. I was hyped up with these 2 books. I was in it. I was like, yes, I understand the hype. But then when I got this, I was just like, if my mind easily wanders from a book, I am bored. If I have to reread the same lines over and over again, I'm bored. My mind did not wander with these books like it did with this book. But I'm still glad this is the order I read it in because if I read this first, I would have been extremely bored and I would be even more judgmental because I was like, this is the series everyone loves. This is basically Selena's backstory, how she became an assassin. And since I knew her in these books, this book made me appreciate her past more. I do recommend reading this first so you can appreciate this book more. I had questions about the witch in this book. This book made me understand. I was interested in the story of how she stole that horse. This book made me understand. When she cried when she was listening to that singer, this book made me understand. When she was afraid of that crime lord, this book made me understand. When she says, my name is Selena Sardothian and I will not be afraid, it's all from here. When she talked about Sam's death, this isn't a spoiler. She just quickly brings up a past lover in this book who was dead. When that was brought up, I was like, girl, don't be so dramatic. Sam was just some boy you dated when you were 16. Now reading the backstory of their relationship, I was like, damn, I'm sorry, Selena. That's actually really heartbreaking. Now that I have all of the information gathered, I can change my opinion and say, holy crap, I know you've been through some shit, but damn. So now on to book number 4. Since the prequel bored me, I was like, yes, we're done with the prequel. Book 4 is gonna be the same excitement I had for the first 2 books. It was not. It was just as boring for me. So Selena's now in a different kingdom. She basically ran away from being the king's assassin, but the king thinks she's on some mission. This is very slow compared to the first 2. The first 2 full of murders and drama. She's doing a lot of grunt work in this book. A new guy pops up, Rowan. I'm like, oh, that's the guy I keep seeing on TikTok. I've never seen Kale or Dorian's name pop up, but I've always seen Rowan. I was like, okay, he's gonna be the MMC, I guess. And I am not feeling him at all. I was really bummed because after reading this first 2, my expectations were high, but then when I read these next 2, they dropped. I was like, okay, this better get better because these 2 just pulled my interest all the way down here. I wanted a continuation of my feelings for these 2. So I paused with Throne of Glass because I could not bring the next 4 physical books with me on our trip we just did, so I went back to my Kindle. And next I read The Invisible Life of Addie. Is that the complete title? I feel like it's Invisible Life of Addie, like her last name. Anyways, I'm back and forth of loving and not loving this book. So we have Addie, who's basically made a deal with the devil so she can escape a forced marriage. She doesn't need a man, she just wants to be. She doesn't realize that the deal she made with the devil is cursed. So the devil granted her wish. She was alone, don't need no man, and because of that, no one remembers her. Once she or someone else walks out of a room, they completely forget her. She's wiped from their memory. So imagine sleeping with someone, they wake up the next morning and they look at you and they're like, who the hell are you? Why are you in my bed? So she can never be in a relationship, she can't have friends, she can't hold a job, because again, every time she comes into work, people are going to be like, who are you? So she has to steal to survive. She's basically homeless because she also can't own a house or rent an apartment. Oh, and also she's been alive for 300 years because she doesn't want to give her soul back to the devil just yet. So the reason this book frustrated me was because for a big chunk, it's basically the same story repeated over and over again. We are just hearing about how lonely she is, how she's made it through different eras in her life being alone. It even started making me feel lonely. So at a point, I'm like, okay, I get the picture. Can we get to the point? So we finally get there. She meets this guy named Henry. This boy remembers her. No one has remembered her in hundreds of years. She's like, okay, this must be a new trick the devil is playing at. So she's cautious about this relationship her and Henry start to build. Also, side note, Addie and the devil have a very weird relationship. He visits her every year asking her if she's ready to give him her soul. They've known each other for hundreds of years. He tries different ways to make her give in. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. There's like a weird thing with them. So she meets Henry. I'm finally enjoying the book. Finally, this book doesn't sound so depressing, and that's where I will leave it. I cannot tell you what happens between them or with the devil. Overall, I think it's a good book. I would buy it, but knowing that it takes so long hearing about her loneliness, I would go into the book needing to mentally prepare myself to be bored for a big chunk of the book. So yeah, I can't buy it. It's different, it's sad. I would still recommend it, but I wouldn't push anyone to read it. Next, I read Daisy Haites' The Great Undoing, the second and last Daisy Haites book. I didn't think I'd be saying this, but I'm glad I read the Daisy Haites book, which is funny because my last book video, I said there was no point in reading Daisy Haites, and now I understand now why Julian, Daisy's brother, that gang lord who like dated Magnolia, I knew he was into her, but damn. When I saw people talking about Daisy Haites and they were saying how Magnolia should have been with Julian, I was like, what are you talking about? BJ is the love of her life, high school sweethearts, madly in love with each other. They're very toxic, but you know, it was kind of like Endgame. But when I read this, I was like, oh my gosh, I understand. I would have loved to see that through. Again, Daisy Haites' brother Julian, his point of view was my favorite with these books. Daisy and Christian was a typical love story. But yeah, Julian's was just different. I'm not gonna go into the whole summary of these books. I've gone into each one of them so much in my past book videos. But I will say again, this whole Magnolia Park series is just addicting. I don't know how the author does it, but I swear these feel like real stories. And I find myself crying with each book, whether it's happy or sad tears. Okay, next I read Caught Up. This is the second book after Lights Out. It's just as cute and fun as Lights Out, but with this book, it's between Allie's cousin. Allie is FMC in Lights Out. These books are just fun palate cleansers to read after an intense book. There's spice just like the first one. I like the spice more in this one. It's more unique. So we have the MMC Nico or Junior, and FMC is Lauren. If you read Lights Out, then you know that Allie's family is like part of the mafia. So yeah, Nico is in the mafia. Nico and Lauren dated in high school, but Nico broke her heart, so that didn't end well. So in this book, we now cut to 10 years later. Lauren is now an online sex worker, and that's how Nico's been secretly stalking her. He's her #1 fan on her account, but she doesn't know it. So he's been lightly stalking her, and now he decides to go to church knowing she's gonna be there. And that is when all the fun begins. Again, remember, they haven't seen each other for like 10 years. He decides to finally approach her. She's like, why should I even talk to you? You broke my heart in high school. And he's over here like, I have an explanation for that. And then we get into the book. I will leave it at that and let you find out the rest if you plan on reading Caught Up. Lights Out though is a little more playful and lighthearted, but I enjoyed this just as much. Okay, the Shatter Me series. This has been on every single one of my book videos, and I am finally done. So I'm straight up just gonna tell you the entire series. This is a full-on spoilers of these books. Skip to the next book if you don't want any spoilers for the Shatter Me series. I have summarized book 1 to 4 in my other videos. I feel like giving you a summary of book 5 to 6 is pointless because it would be giving you spoilers for the books before it. So Shatter Me, I can't believe I'm gonna be doing this, but it's gonna be the last time explaining this first book. If you wanna know what the series is about and you don't care to read them, but you're just curious, I will explain all of them right now. So again, Shatter Me. It's set in a dystopian world. The world has gone to hell. Juliet, the FMC, has been in prison because she will literally kill anyone who she touches. She has some kind of weird power. She touches someone for too long, they die. So her parents basically like threw her away. So she's in this jail at least over a year, I want to say, and she gets this new cellmate, Adam. This book is making it out like they are going to be endgame because they've known each other since they were young. He has this bird tattoo that means something to her. He was basically the only person who was nice to her in school. He is the only one who can touch her without being killed. So again, I'm like, okay, that's her soulmate right there. Adam is actually not a prisoner. He's there to take her out of the asylum and bring her to Sector 45. There are sectors in this dystopian world. We're not going to get into that. But when he brings her to Sector 45, we are introduced to Aaron Warner. He's the bad guy. Technically, his daddy is the evil bad guy who's in charge of the reestablishment. So Aaron is making her go through these physical and mental tests. Like he's using her as a weapon to see her potential. She doesn't like this. Adam doesn't like this. So they decide to run away. So while she's running out that window, she actually makes physical contact with Aaron. Remember, he's with the bad guy. And he is not affected by her touch. And I'm like, oh no, you're gonna make these two get together, aren't you? Eventually, Aaron finds them. Juliet distracts Aaron, like she's trying to get Adam out. I think they're in like some warehouse, like she wants Adam to escape. But she distracts Aaron by making out with him and she shoots him. She's running away and she's thinking, why is that kiss making me feel something? It wasn't that bad. So yeah, I'm just like, oh my gosh, she's gonna like him, isn't she? So she gets away in this book and she hides with Adam in his house. Unravel Me is next. Julie is introduced to Omega Point. It's the headquarters of a rebel resistance. There is structure and order here. So Juliet and Adam aren't all cutesy like they are in the first book. They basically don't have time for each other because they're working on their powers here. Adam's power is being able to shut down other people's power. Here we find out that Adam is actually not immune to Juliet's power. If he doesn't have his defenses up, touching him would also kill him. Now I'm like, okay, let me guess. Aaron, the bad boy, is the only one who actually touched her. I mean, yeah, that's kind of what happens. So Juliet basically breaks up with Adam because she doesn't want him to be in pain when they make physical contact. And there's this crazy teenage breakup drama. And it just pisses me off how easily she can switch over to Aaron. I'm like, damn girl, did you even like Adam? Oh, Aaron's obviously so in love with Juliet, by the way. But he wants to make his evil villain dad proud by being a villain son. But Juliet, of course, starts breaking him down, and he starts gaining these things called emotions. Oh, and spoiler, I mean, these are all spoilers. Adam and Aaron are actually half brothers. They both have the same evil dad. Third book, Ignite Me, Omega Point is destroyed by a small war at the end of Unravel Me. Since Aaron's all in love with Juliet, he lets her friends stay over at his place. Nothing big happens in this book. Everyone is just slowly recovering. The ending is basically a happy ending because she gets to kill Anderson. Again, evil dad villain and supreme commander. Shocker, in the next book, he's actually still alive. But now Juliet's the supreme commander. This 18-year-old girl is apparently in charge of everything. What could possibly go wrong? Restore Me, Juliet is trying to figure out how to be Supreme Commander. She's struggling hard. And at the end of this book, she murders everyone because of her emotions. Let me explain. So she's doing this whole speech in front of the reestablishment. They don't like her. Again, the reestablishment are the bad guys. They don't like her. She wants good in the world. They don't. They start shooting at her, she screams, and everyone drops dead. That was the only thing that caught my attention in this book, and it actually made me start smiling. I was like, oh yay, everyone's dead. And then after that, she wakes up in her childhood bedroom with her very much alive parents. And they're also the villains. Oh, and she has a sister she never knew about. The sister actually has stronger powers, and she's been experimented on since the day she's been born. So Juliet's actually had it good compared to her sister. And she's figuring out that her memories have been wiped from her childhood. So these last two are the books I read this month. Defy Me. Remember how I said she murdered everyone? Just kidding. It was a setup, and Juliet and Aaron were kidnapped, hence Juliet being in her parents' home. Oh, her parents are torturing her, by the way. They want to basically reset her brain, wipe all her memories, and start over again. And apparently they do this all the time. And she's known Aaron since forever, and in each scenario where she wakes up not brainwashed, they fall back in love with each other each time. And Juliet finds her sister in this because they're kind of communicating telepathically. She realizes her sister's on the brink of death, and Juliet's so pissed over this that she murders her mom. She literally pulls out her mom's heart from her. See, I'm telling you, this girl's emotional. But I get it, like, she's been torturing you guys for how long, and she's evil, like, yeah, pull out her heart. So she escapes with Aaron because Kenji and Nazari, these are other characters. I love these two. They're such lovebirds. Both of them come and rescue Aaron and Juliet. Okay, the last one, Imagine Me. It's the last book out of 6 books. I'm expecting something epic. Spoiler, it's not really epic. So Juliet somehow ends up being captured again. Remember how I said Aaron's dad is still alive? He has her now. And he's basically turned her into a robot. She has no memories. Again, they keep trying to make this poor girl into a tool. And the weirdest thing ever is that there's this weird chemistry going on with Aaron's dad. I'm like, wait, I know Juliet's mind isn't there anymore, but she's like starting to get into her boyfriend's dad. And even dad's friends are like, dude, don't you feel weird about that? Your son's girlfriend seems like she's into you. Anyways, her friends come to save her. Her sister ends up dead. Aaron's dad dies. Aaron's like making out with her, trying to bring back her memories. Her memories come back. Yeah, that's the gist of it. I don't remember the exact ending, but I mean, everything's okay. Everything's happy. Nice happy ending. The fact that I don't remember the ending means it just really wasn't that epic. If you don't want to go through all these 6 books, but you want something similar, I would say go for Whisper and Weapon. This is like a condensed version of these 6 books, and I wouldn't have cared if I ever read this series. This is one of the rare TikTok book recommendations where I was like, yeah, TikTok, you did me dirty. Like, it wasn't horrible, but it just, I don't think it was worth it. So these last two books of my August books were more mid, forgettable books. Nothing stood out about them. So many times I stopped reading because I was so bored. It was messy. The magic wasn't explained well. There were so many terms where I had no idea what they meant, but I didn't bother to write them down. And it's not like I could because the author barely explains these terms. Usually I want to learn what everything means in a book so I can thoroughly enjoy it, but I didn't seem to care with this book. The main characters were just not strong enough. One of the main characters could die and I could be like, oh, that sucks. The other main character can find another lover in the next book. You know, like, nothing stood out about their relationship. This is not an enemies to lovers book. They both want each other so bad. When they first meet at a bar, he learns that she's having an arranged marriage the next day, where he swoops in and he's like, nope, you're having an arranged marriage with me instead. She's all mad now that, oh no, she's forced to actually marry the man who actually wants her and she wants. Wow, that means he's such a horrible person. He's my enemy. Not gonna lie, the beginning hooked me in with all of that. So the FMC is Camilla. She's an heiress to her family's steam train company. The company is failing, hence the arranged marriage. Not with Nikolai. My brother's name. The guy from the bar is Nikolai, but he's actually the leader of a rival family. And this is when they become enemies to lovers. Nikolai wanted her so badly at the bar that he barged in a few hours later to stake his claim on her. This is not an enemies to lovers. The second book was even worse. So something horrible ends at the first book, which leads to the second book. So it's hard to talk about the second book without giving away what happens with the first book. Plot execution is even weaker than the first book. It was jumping around too much. I feel like there was so much missing. I'm still trying to figure out how the magic system works. I don't care about the love interest anymore. This book just fell flat. It's 100% on my extremely forgettable, nothing stands out, painfully mid list. So when I was done with that, we were back from our vacation. I was like, thank God I can get back to Throne of Glass. Okay, so these next 4 books, they will all be spoilers if you have not read the full book. I will obviously put the book title here and the spoiler warning. If you had not read the full book of the book I'm going to be talking about, do not watch this. But let's still talk about book number 4 so I can finally vent about why I do not like Rowan. I could not vent about him and his age because then I would give away that he's fae. I had no idea there were fairies in this book. I thought that was just an ACOTAR thing. So when I found out about the whole fae thing, like, that was a shocker. So yeah, I don't want to tell anyone there were fae in this book. So now I can speak freely of why I don't like Rowan and Aelin. So with Rowan, I don't know why, but so many times in this book, I want to say 3 or 4 times, it's brought up how old he is and how him and Aelin can be somehow related. And I'm just like, okay, I'm pretty sure this is the guy she's supposed to get with. Why do you keep bringing up his age and the fact that they could be related? That turned me off instantly. I don't see the point of why Sarah had to keep bringing them up if she wanted them to be endgame. So yeah, I just was not into that. Age gap actually feels gross. I mean, you could say that with other fairy books because even though Farah is 18 and Rysand is like 500 years old, he doesn't sound like an old, archaic man. He's out snowball fighting with his bros. These books make him sound like he's in his late 20s, early 30s. That's why the age thing never bothered me in this. But with Rowan, he actually sounds like a 300-year-old man. He sounds more like he could be Aelin's long lost older brother or uncle. She feels like a teenager when she's with him. When she's with Kale and Dorian, I'm not even thinking about her age. But when she's with Rowan, it's giving underage teenager married to an old man vibes. She feels like an infant in comparison to him. Their relationship just feels bleh to me. And when I read that, I was like, I just have to accept that Sarah's gonna make them get together. Even though there's absolutely no chemistry, feels very platonic. When they eventually did develop feelings for each other, their romance was so bland. Hate me all you want, but I don't see it. What is it with these fantasy authors and them putting petite little girls who don't even have their frontal lobe fully developed? I know I use that phrase a lot, but it's true. These authors are pairing them with these old, huge, buff, older men. Anyways, oh, and the witches are introduced in this book. I was like, no, who are these folks? I don't need to keep up with more people. They really bored me. Yet in the upcoming books, the witches, they grew on me. What's this one about again? Oh, finally, she's back to the mainland. Remember how I said I was so bored with these two books? Now that she's back to the mainland, I took a deep breath and I'm like, okay, yay, she can go back to murdering people. I'm finally starting to enjoy this series again when I get to this book. And I'm pissed because I'm like, both you and Kale were like so sad to let each other go. No, I'm sorry, don't leave. And then when she comes back, she's basically like, oh, I hate Kale. Like there were so many instances in this book where Sarah had to keep saying that Aelin doesn't like Kale, where I feel like it got to a point where I'm like, you're pushing too hard. You're doing too much to try to make me hate him. Sarah was trying hard to be like, everyone let's hate Kale and fall in love with Rowan now. Kale's a 22-year-old immature boy. Look at all his flaws. Even though Aelin's a 19-year-old immature girl, but hey, she needs to get with the perfect 300-year-old fairy who's mature and has his shit together. Nothing changed about my feelings with Rowan. It was kind of weird when Rowan popped up and she ran to hug him and she was trembling. I was like, didn't you just know this dude for like a month? Maybe longer, a month, 2 months? Again, I felt no chemistry. It's like she ran to go hug her uncle or dad. I know everyone hates Kale, okay, but I feel like Kale was cheated on the love aspect. We went from sparks and passion to, oh, now his romance is gonna be with a friend he works with, and they had a few flings here and there, so we're gonna match them. And I was like, seriously, you're gonna give Aelin a cute little love story, but we get the bare minimum with Kale? So yeah, you will see I have beef with that. I think this is where Manon, the main witch girl, I don't know why I'm explaining this to you, because again, these are for people who have fully read these books. You want chemistry though? When Manon and Dorian meet, there it is. Oh, the king finally dies. I expected something epic because he was the villain in all the books before this, but the king was just like, nope, I'm sorry. It wasn't me being evil, but the Valg demon inside me. So, yeah, his son, Prince Dorian, murders him. Kale dies, and I'm like, oh, that sucks. I really liked him. But I figured at some point someone had to die, and that's why everyone was so heartbroken. I've been mentally preparing myself for his death since the second book, since I figured it would be easy for Sarah to just kill off Aelin's lover so she can focus on Rowan. But nope, he's not dead. So it was a nice happy surprise. Empire of Storms, this one was my favorite one. We get Lorcan and a lead. Hands down my favorite love story in these books. That's chemistry. We get more Manon and Dorian, Witch and Prince. Lots of chemistry with them too. I think they're my second favorite duo. This is a book where I finally had some emotion to this series, especially with the ending. I was like, there's that Sarah Maas book where it's at like a steady pace. Then you get whiplash with how wild and exciting the ending is. I was smiling so hard when Abraxas flew in and the witches followed him. When it's revealed to Rowan that Aelin's actually his mate and not his dead wife, I was like, okay, I feel a little less gross since they're mates, but I was still not a fan. The silent assassins showing up. I know there's more. There was just a million like bombshells dropped. Yeah, this was definitely my favorite. Honestly, this was such a breath of fresh air. I don't know if I was just tired of the whole group and I needed someone else's story, or this was focused between two people's stories versus what, 6 people, 7 point of view in this. I was glad we're back to romance between properly aged adults. Honestly, the only other book I felt romance with was Crown of Midnight. All I remember this is Selena and Kale and their long hug. It was in this book, right? Not the first one. Their long hug, their slow dancing. And honestly, I felt more chemistry between Kale and Selena versus Kale and Irene. But I got over it. Kale and Irene are perfect for each other. But you want to know my other crazy thought? Out of Sam, Dorian, Kale, and Rowan, I think Aelin's love and chemistry, and who I wish was endgame, was Sam. Even if he wasn't a fairy and he was gonna age, that's fine. She has 1,000 years to be with Rowan. But when it comes to chemistry and a match, I wish it was Sam. But anyways, perfect breather book. I love that Kale got his love story. That's what I wanted for him, okay? Because when they made it seem like Kale and Nesrin was gonna be his love interest, I was like, there are no sparks there. That's sad that that's who you put him with, but I'm so glad for this book. Okay, last book. I'm gonna bitch about Rowan and Aelin one last time. Dude, Aelin being kidnapped and tortured and Fenris being there with her throughout the whole thing. I felt more connection with Aelin and Fenris because they had to suffer together and they had that little Morse code between each other. So yeah, I don't know what it is. Like there wasn't like a point between her and Rowan where I'm like, that's her man, or like there was a strong connection to anything. Could say maybe like it started with him training her, but again, he felt like a trainer. He felt like an older man training a girl versus Kale training her. There was more chemistry with that. I don't know, but back to the book. When Rowan finally found her, I wasn't even like, oh my gosh, they're reunited. Run to her, Rowan. None of that. Aelid on horseback searching for Lorcan, that had my heart beating. Kale dying and Irene holding him and her being like, no, please don't die on me. I had more heart beating with that. Nesrin and Sartak, they're not even main characters. But when Sartak was like, I loved you before I ever set eyes on you. I wish we'd had time. That was more heart beating. So yeah, the Aelin and Rowan's love story just felt bland to me. But who cares when everyone else's love stories were so good? Even if Aelin had no love interest, I wouldn't care because her story in itself is legendary enough where she don't need no man. But honestly, the MVP in these books is Lysandra. I felt like she was doing all the hard work and fighting. She never backed down, no matter how much of an ass Aedion was to her. That didn't break her. She had to play Aelin's role along with all the animals and sea monsters she had to shift into. She deserves all the praise. She deserves better than Aedion. So the war was spread out at a steady pace throughout the whole book. So because of that, there was less of a shock factor when it finally came down to slaying their enemies. It wasn't like how I felt with ACOWAR, but it's different. When it came to fun, intense, dropping a bombshell after bombshell after bombshell, it was definitely in Empire of Storms. I thought that was gonna be what I got with the last book, but no, it was here. The same vibe I got from ACOWAR, where it was just like, there's an intense war going on and bombshell, bombshell, bombshell. But that has not happened with the war in this last book. Final ending of this series. For me, there was more heart racing and emotions and crying with ACOWAR. You want to know the only time I ended up tearing up in this entire 8-book series was when she hugged Kale and Dorian goodbye. She has been with those two boys throughout everything. Aelin looked at Kale and Dorian and sobbed, opened her arms to them and wept as they held each other. I love you both, she whispered, and no matter what may happen, no matter how far we may be, that will never change. That was the only part that got me tearing up. With all the TikToks I've seen and with how emotional people are talking about this series, I expected something epic like Aelin dying and sacrificing herself. 100% thought that that's what was going to happen when she forged the locks. That would have been an epic ending and worthy of people being emotional and heartbroken. But no, all the main characters are perfectly fine at the end. Yes, I know Aedion's dad died, but it wasn't like heart-wrenching. The most heartbreak I got from this was Manon losing all her witches. Her girls who have been with her since forever. She has been through so much with them, especially her cousin. Aelin had all her friends alive and intact, but Manon lost her entire family. She came to support Aelin and that's what she gets? How many witches are gonna go back with her to the wastelands and reunite? Not a lot. So yeah, I expected someone big to die. Authors, you know you can kill off prominent people, right? That would be a tragic, heart-wrenching book that I couldn't stop thinking about. I wish there was something like that in the finale. With everyone's love stories, Elide and Lorcan, like I said, #1. See, Lorcan's like 500 years old, but he does not feel that way in comparison to a lead. And the whole fact that he's gonna just be human now to be with her and die with her, and oh my gosh, that had me giggling so much with the whole asking her to ask him to marry him. Gosh, that made me so hold on, let me find it. Elide waved him off, but Lorcan kissed her. When he pulled away, Elide breathed. What was that for? Ask me to stay, was all he said. Her heart began racing. Stay, she whispered. Ask me to come to parent with you. Come to parent with me. Lorcan nodded as if in answer, and his smile was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. Ask me to marry you. Elide began crying even as she laughed. Will you marry me, Lorcan Salvatore? Oh my gosh, I swear, that was so stinking cute and sweet. I freaking, especially what comes next, the whole Elide laughed again. Lord Lorcan Loken? It sounded just as ridiculous coming out. Lorcan blinked at her, then howled. She had never heard such a joyous sound. He swept her up in his arms again, spinning her. I'll use it with pride every damn day for the rest of my life. Oh my gosh. They were my favorite couple, I would say. And then Kale and Irene, Manon and Dorian, Nesrin and Sartak. That was also very romantic. Honestly, I wish we got some spice with them, but I think their chemistry was enough. We have Aelin and Rowan and Aedion and Lysandra. I'd put Aelin and Rowan above Aedion and Lysandra. I just feel like Aedion was such an ass to her and Lysandra did all that work and she deserved more. That is how I would rate all these lovers. Yes, it's not revolved around romance, but you really can't say that these are romantic books. I got giggles with these books too. So overall, yes, I think it's a great series. I can't tell if these are overhyped, mostly because these are the TikToks I kept seeing.
And this series will literally change your life. It looks like a major undertaking, but trust me, you will be sobbing by the end because you won't want this series to be over.
This is the greatest series of all time. Yeah? It's just the best. Nothing compares.
Do I feel like the series is overhyped? A little bit. Like I said, I only got teary-eyed when she was saying goodbye to the boys. Do I want to read these 8 books all over again? Absolutely. Does this mean this is the best book series ever? No. I know I could still find a series better than this, but I feel like Throne of Glass is just like a staple classic. Honestly, I was more in a book slump after finishing ACOTAR, but I do think this series will be ingrained in my mind. Only the ACOTAR series and Book of Azrael, they're the only series or books in general that always pop up in my mind. ACOTAR I see on TikTok non-stop, so that could be why too, but I never see Book of Azrael on TikTok. Yet that series always pops up in my mind. Honestly, I got more emotions out of that than Throne of Glass. I have a feeling I have a lot of opposite feelings compared to the majority of Throne of Glass readers, but that's just how I felt. I can go more into detail with all my thoughts with this series, but that would take hours, so I'm gonna end it here and let's do a ranking of these books. Let's just start at the bottom because I still don't know how to rank Throne of Glass. I feel like I'm gonna have to do it in real time. But my least favorite from August and September was City of Mirth and Malice, and then House of Bane and Blood, Imagine Me, Defy Me, Caught Up, Daisy Haites, Visible Life of Addie. So now we are gonna do Throne of Glass together. Okay, so my least favorite ones is the prequel one and then When She's Off to Wendlin. I wanna say I was bored with this, but this book is necessary. There are so many past relationships and reasons why you need to read this book. You need to know who all these people are who Aelin meet. Like, this is just a staple. It's not even the whole me not liking Rowan thing. It was just really boring. Heir of Fire at 8. And then The Assassin's Blade at 7. I want to say I like this more than the first. Even though I clearly remember what happens in the first and don't clearly remember what happens here, I just know there was so much more going on here that I enjoyed, because this was mostly full of the games. Crown of Midnight, again, I know I'm in the minority, but I just like Kale and Selena's love story. Oof. You know what? I don't feel bad loving Tower of Dawn, because when I was looking at comments in Throne of Glass TikToks, there was so many people saying this is their number 1. So yeah, I don't feel bad ranking this high. Empire is definitely gonna be number 1, so which one do I like more? I mean, this one was less stressful and it was a romance book, but yeah, it was mostly between a few people, so fine. Third, and then second, Kingdom of Ash, the last book, and then first was Empire of Storms. I think since just everyone's together here, there's so much going on. Again, I freaking love Ellie, then Lorcan. Whew, that was definitely a roller coaster. I will read these books eventually once again, and I have a feeling that reading them a second time I might enjoy it more, since now I know everything and the backstory and I know more about the people, and I could probably find like little clues that I didn't notice the first time I read it. I know it's not like the best series ever, but it's a series I would like to reread all over again. Every single 8 books of these. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in my next one.